Still don't have the sun in our favor. Woo! There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Why am I closer and you're not? Can you scooch up? Anyway, good Sunday morning. It is the 27th of August. Can you believe it's already the 27th of August?
Yeah,
So, I'm Amber,
I'm Tim.
and we are two of the five Bradshaw family members that left the city to move off grid in East Tennessee and by the Smoky Mountains that we're looking at actually right outside of our window. And if you're joining us for the first time, thank you and welcome. And um, we don't have anything planned. This is just coffee chat with friends and like-minded people. And sometimes we have something on our heart that we want to talk about. Other times we just wing it. And that's it. And you're welcome. We invite you to join the chat and chit chat in the comments down below, and we'll respond. If for some reason that you're catching this on replay and it wasn't live, I apologize. We try to do it at 8 o'clock every Sunday. Some Sundays we miss. Some Sundays we're a couple minutes early. I'm sorry, I got here. But we always reply. So I get email notifications. Good morning, Sherry. How are you, sister? Sherry, I'm glad you joined because there were some points that I think I forgot about that you might be able to chime in on. But anyhow, you say good morning to Sherry and Jock.
Oh, Sherry and John. Yeah. Good morning.
Sorry, I'm shedding right now. Like the dogs are shedding to get their winter coat, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, I'm shedding a little bit too.
Yeah, you don't need to shed anymore, baby.
I'm mostly right in here.
So this week, okay, if you joined us live last week, we were getting ready to go to a prepper meeting that afternoon, and we were so excited. And doggone it, I think the book's in the other room, or it might not be. Hang on, Timmy will talk about it briefly, Timmy, just a synopsis.
Yeah, I end up spoiling.
No, you don't. It's not a spoiler alert. We talked about it.
Yeah. So yeah, we went to a prepper meeting, and we there was a guy there who built a cob oven, and it's not your typical cob oven. It's more of a outdoor furnace type thing that has
Heats his house.
yeah, it heats his house. So
entire home.
it's really he's engineered this thing to really put some heat in the house. So yeah, we were able to get the rundown on how he built it.
This, y'all, I don't even know. If there was a camera in there that could have filmed my face, I was like this the whole time. Like,
yeah, we asked a bunch of questions.
We were so encouraged. There we go. That's the word. What is this light?
Yeah, I mean,
we were so encouraged by that meeting.
Inspired. I mean,
yeah, inspired. There we go. Inspired. He got it.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about it in depth for what we learned because I took tons of notes. Not this week though. Something else happened that's bigger on our heart, but I wanted to share this with you. You can see it. Okay? It's called Earth Oven. And I don't know when this book was released. It's been a while. Build Your Own Earth Oven, 3rd edition by Chico Denzer. And this is where they got a lot of their information. Then he had someone that built cob ovens come over and help them. And they're actually going to come over here when we go to do ours. So I'm really, really excited to share that process with you because there's so much to glean from it. And it's affordable. It's not easy. I can't say it's easy. But I'm not quite sure the skill level is 10. So hopefully we'll be good with that. So yeah, we're going to discuss that next week. But I'm showing you this because when I ordered this on Amazon, and this was the book that he had, I got it the next day, y'all. It was like $14. And that way, so if you want to order it on Amazon, we don't earn affiliate money from mentioning this. It's just me sharing the information with you. you can get it and have it ready for next Sunday chit chat. And then I'll go over and share everything that we learned during the meeting, and we'll talk about it. And if you know anybody that's got a cob oven or cooks that way, or like a pizza oven, and they want to chime in, invite them. But what he used theirs for, which Timmy explained, is it heated their whole home. And they have an 1,000 square foot home, and it heats the whole thing in the winter to a nice toasty 70 degrees, sometimes hotter. He goes, sometimes it got too hot when you had to open the windows. And this is an elderly couple, so, as we get old, sometimes we're cold all the time. And so it was very, very inspiring.
Yeah. So, when they, I guess, designed this thing and put it together, they put it right outside their home. So it's very convenient for the firewood and going outside and loading it.
And it doesn't interfere with the insurance of
yeah,
their house and all that kind of stuff.
and he explained to me that, this thing would, if you load it up at night, it would burn all night and put heat in the house. And he would come out the next morning and he would still have enough coals in there to just add some more wood to it and get it going again.
Okay, we'll save the rest for next week.
So,
because we had an interesting week, to say the least, and it will be. It's not funny, haha. It's funny, ironic. We were just talking in church the other day. He's like, when things are going really good, he's like, just the world seems to be right. Well, the world is never right, first of all. He said, be on your most alert, because if you're doing good, that's when Satan's in his work trying to bring it all down, and I have found that more often than not to be true. It's like I'll have that moment, and I don't even like to say it out loud to Timmy, where, honey, I know it's crazy, but everything's going good. I'm happy. And I don't say it because I know Satan's like, pow! And that's kind of where, so they said it at church last week. And when I say everything's going good, don't misunderstand. I understand what's going on in the world today. I understand what's going on in our community today. I understand that, we still have so many things that we need to do, health issues, home issues. I'm not saying that we don't have all those problems. It's just at the moment, I'm good. Like, I'm good here, and we're happy, and I'm just not. And so that's kind of where we were last week. Last Monday, we went to Dollywood. And for whatever reason, I didn't think they'd be busy. So I'm like, let's go, when everyone's in school and it won't be busy. And it was busy. But
it wasn't that busy.
It wasn't insane. And so anyhow, when we left, we saw, a couple Hispanics down the road spraying around the poles. And that always gets us, spraying poison. And it was so bad we had to roll up our windows because Lyndon has extreme chemical reactions and allergies. She can't even walk down the cleaning aisle at Walmart because it makes it where she can't breathe. She'll break out in hives. That's happened since she was a baby. Like when she was in a stroller, like baby. We went to the mall. And, Abercrombie, I'm not even saying that right, the one that sprays perfume all the time, we're pushing her down, and I was like, boop, 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 boop. She's breaking out in hives all over her body. And it was from me just pushing her through the mall with all those perfumes and scents and everything. So that's how sensitive she is. And that was even one of our main reasons actually we started before she was born, but we make all of our own household supplies, or we buy the unscented, organic, biodegradable, and earth-friendly. A little bit more of a backstory is with us. We have been very passionate for years, well over a decade, probably more than 2 decades, about our water. We were part of the East Coast Conservation League in South Carolina. We were part of the Surf Riders Foundation. That's all about, protecting the waterways. We know how precious a resource our water is. And I used to teach courses at the local college about making your own non-toxic biodegradable products so they didn't affect our waterways, because we would see how the contaminants from cleaning our city water was doing to the waterways by killing all the starfish, the menhaden, all of that. And now it's killing all of the beneficial bacteria, and there's huge algae plumes, and we could go on and on. I mean, that's something that Timmy especially, I'm passionate, but that's one thing that really drives him. And I hate saying I'm sorry, but we even like back in Polly's, Timmy rerouted all of our gray water for our irrigation on French drains and drip system, so we didn't have to use potable water to do our irrigation for all of our plants and everything. And so we've always been very conservative with it, and it's always been extremely important to us what we pour down in our water. We know that it gets sometimes, for instance, your medicines that are water soluble, your cleaners, your hair dye, all of that stuff, it can never be removed from water once it goes in it. Never. So you have pure drinking water that they add more chemicals to purify, that has residuals of medicines and everything else that's been poured into the waterways for years and years. That was our number one thing that we looked for when off-grid property was water. Obviously, location meant a lot too, and there's some others that were really at the top, but water was the number one. And what did you feel when you got to this piece of land?
Well, I mean, I saw all the streams and everything, and I'm like, this is a good sign. Having a artesian well is a
Huge
blessing.
blessing.
Yeah,
I was talking to the guy about that for the.
and it seems like that anytime you have an artesian well, it's almost like it replenishes itself. You can use all the water out of it, and it'll keep coming up and overflowing.
Artesian well's one of the best wells to have.
Yeah, and I think someone explained it to me down at the bottom where you have your aquifer. There is a deep hole right there that all this water just kind of funnels into. It's always moving, but you have just like a big void down in the bottom of your well casing, and so you always have that that fresh moving water. And when I learned that, I'm like, oh wow.
We knew we were blessed, and we found it on accident. We didn't buy this land knowing that it was here. And we had, when we first moved here, Timmy built this like makeshift ladder, and we were crawling down in the creek with 5-gallon buckets and hauling it up. So yeah, to say that we were ecstatic that we found this artesian well was an understatement. But we're very still conservative of it. And if you watch the episode of Homestead Rescue, you understand how important the water was to us. That was our main concern. Now, also on that note, if you watch Homestead Rescue, no, we do not have running water here. And our well is a half a mile down the mountain, 300-foot difference in elevation. And they put this wonderful pump on it, the company that donated it. However, our well isn't deep. And although it does a recovery, at 35 gallons, it shuts off. The safety mechanism in it shuts off. And it takes at least 125 gallons to reach us. So there's a lot of, Timmy and I, to say that we've argued about this situation is an understatement. We've argued about it quite a bit. And now we have 3 families that survive off of that artesian well, plus rainwater collection and everything else. So it's always been one of our biggest points of contention on our homestead. We're when I always said, if you have to haul water for everything, you protect every drop. You can cry. You ever heard about crying over spilt milk? You want to see a grown person cry? Spill a whole thing of water around here. It's like, I hauled that, I purified that. How dare you?
Yeah.
It's just, we don't do it. We don't dump out our extra water. It either goes to the plants or to a dog or something. We conserve our water because we know how precious it is. And so all of that leading up to when we went to Dollywood. Now, let's also to state, if you're not familiar with us or our homestead, we have almost 47 acres here in the mountains of East Tennessee. They took drones up when we were filming both of the show. No, they didn't do, when we were filming Homestead, Building Off the Grid, they took drones up, and as far as you could see was just vegetation. All the 360. You didn't see a bunch of homes. There's no apartment buildings. I mean, there's homes up over the crest of the mountain and stuff, the ridge, but you don't see them even from up in the sky. We're very fortunate to be secluded as we are, and we treasure that. And so, anyhow, we have, and we live off grid at the top here, but down in the holler where my mom lives, half a mile down the mountain, 300-foot different in elevation, there are electrical poles that go on down our driveway. Now, we did install a street light on one of those because for security reasons, when we first got here, we had some nefarious activity going on. We needed that extra protection. And my mom stays there now, so she needs it. And it stops at the cabin where she lives, and then the power poles go straight up the mountain, up and over to provide power for the people behind us. And so the electric company does have that right away to maintain those lines. And they'll come in with a brush cutter. And I think I mentioned before how I was upset that they cut down all our mulberry trees and all that. And they just left a bunch of debris behind. But I never complained about it. We just took care of it. We cleaned it and did our own thing. However, Monday, when we saw these people and we had to roll up our windows, never in a million years did we think they would be on our property because all of our light poles are maintained. They're all mowed around. There's no high brush around them. They just chopped down all the trees. There's absolutely zero reason to come on our land for the easement right to spray those. Okay, go ahead. Now you tell them what the call that we got from my mom.
Oh, well, Pam called us and she said that the people were on our property and they were spraying around the light poles. So we have one light pole that's about 3 feet away from our well house. And if you think about it, you're spraying poison, you've got a well right there, and you put two and two together, and it just common sense would tell you, you don't do things like that. I mean,
there was other issues too. For instance, they came when my mom found them because her dog was going crazy. When we got no notification, we have a gated driveway to get into her property. These men came up over the mountain on foot. The no company name, no company logo, couldn't speak or wouldn't speak English. And my mom's dog, that is a pit, was kind of going crazy. And then we have our livestock guardian dog. So there's also this huge liability. Two men that don't speak English that look a lot different than us coming on our land, there's no security or guarantee that they won't get mauled, which we would be liable for. And they were spraying, and my mom was like, no spray, no spray. And they wouldn't communicate with her. And when she saw them, they were coming up from a part of our land that is nowhere near the poles. Like nowhere, not even within 100 foot of any of the poles. They had absolutely zero business to be further on our property. And they sprayed and everything. We could smell it coming home down the road. And Timmy was sick about this because they just poisoned our water. And he's like, Amber, get an environmental attorney. This is game on. There's no excuse for this. They just poisoned our water. We haven't used our well since. Because you get it into the water, and everything that we have relies on that well. Our animals, our bees, us, and there's no telling what they spray. Long story short, we contacted the county, the vegetation control. We contacted the Tennessee Department of Environmental Protection. We contacted laboratories to do water and soil samples. It really has been a laborious, exhaustive week trying to ratify this. And we did, Timmy, dug up the soil. It didn't rain at that point in time, thank the Lord, and removed the weeds just from around our well. We clearly couldn't do our whole property. But I talked to the vegetative control guy who's in charge of it for our county. He was very arrogant. Like I contacted him several days in a row, and he goes, and my message was professional. It was like, "Hello, my name is Amber Bradshaw. I need to contact somebody who's in charge of the vegetative control in the Cosby area. Blah blah blah. Please give me a call back." He didn't even say what it was about. I have some questions. That was it. So when I finally reached him, because I called again, I wasn't giving up. I goes, "Yeah, I got your message." She goes, "I could tell you were really passionate on the phone. So I figured I'd let you calm down before I called you back." Now, mind you, Timmy was there when I left the message. Didn't have a raised voice. I wasn't cussing. There was absolutely, it didn't sound aggravated. There was no reason to have that point of view for my phone call. And that ticked me off. And he was very arrogant, talking about his degree and this and that. He says, "Well, I'll send you," he sent me the papers of what they spray. And he assured me how safe it was for the waterways and the animals and even the bees and all this stuff. At 36 pages of chemicals and warnings and how to handle it, and for the fire department, I mean, they came from the chemical supplies. And Sherry, if you're still listening, I sent it to you. I just back me up on this. I remember distinctively reading, because 36 pages is a lot to go through, and then still having so much vague information that this hasn't been tested for safety. This hasn't been tested for environment. This hasn't been tested. Good morning, Linda. How are you, sister? Linda, I'm sorry, you just caught us in the middle of this. We're going on a rant about them poisoning our water. Uh, and then the one that I did read said it should not be near any aquifers, any wells, public or private. It shouldn't be near any creeks or streams. And this is the same chemical this joker is telling me on the phone that is completely safe for our drinking water in our livestock and bees.
Yeah, I mean, when you contact people like that, I mean, I think they're pretty much pre-programmed
Poo-poo you.
to say that and hopefully give you like, okay, we got a little bit of relief. But
Oh, you reassurance. Don't worry, we're just poisoning
when you
you.
look at the paperwork, it's detrimental, to look at that. And I mean, this kind of poison is not made to go on
In your drinking water.
in your
It
drinking
shouldn't
water.
be used
It
anyway.
shouldn't be, yeah.
What it is, it's lazy people because they don't want to get out there manually and have to maintain the weeds and stuff for the lines. And I understand protect the linemen. If you have a lineman in your life, God bless you, because I would not want their job. However, easement to power lines and access for the linemen does not grant permission to poison our earth. Period. And I'll go a step further. Let me get off on this tangent for just a minute. The very first job God entrusted Adam with was to go and care for the land, to go and care for the gardens. He didn't say go poison the water and poison the land. He said to be caretakers of the land. That was the very first job. And as a believer and somebody who likes to follow what God says, I'm like, I take that job seriously, very seriously. Because what kind of selfish person wants to do things for the convenience of themselves and not think of the repercussions for the future generations? It's all of our responsibility to be caregivers of this land. And that goes into that whole homesteading health thing. I got off on people, and we've always kind of got into it a little bit because I'm trying to express how if you care about where your food is raised and you care about the water that you put on it and what you put on the soil. So we're just going through this, issue this week, and I'm at church, and the man behind me says, "Well, I sprayed Roundup and blah 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 all over," and I turned, my eyes went real big, and I turned around and said, "If you say that again around me and you are going to have a come to Jesus meeting." He goes, "Oh, don't give me that. I'm not one of those environmentalists. I don't care about that stuff." And I almost went off in church, y'all. It was all I could do to hold my tongue. The Holy Spirit must have blocked me because my top was getting ready to pop. I mean, the man got up and walked away.
Yeah.
I wasn't nasty, but I was getting ready to be. I said, it is our responsibility.
I turned around and I looked at everybody that was sitting on that road with him, and I just shook my head and I said, don't do it.
And because it's biblical if you're a believer to be caregivers of the land. Never is it okay to poison anybody. And there was a study that was done at Cornell University on over 300 newborn infants that they tested their blood for chemical the cord right after birth, and they all had thousands of chemicals already. Roundup was one of the main ones
Yeah.
in their blood at birth. And I was like, what are you doing? We have all this 1,000% increase, 3,000% increase, 100% increase in autism and cancer and ADD. And it's like they're not making the connection. When does it become our responsibility? My neighbors and I have an ongoing feud over the weed killers in between our homes. Linda, you can contact Clemson Extension about the watershed. I can't remember who's in charge of that department right now, but I know we did it with 4-H, if you can think back to that, because you are responsible for your watershed. So if their contaminated water is going on your side, they can be held liable. Of course, there's a law involved with all of that, but and that's unfortunate. It's like the person like us, all of us, that have shallow itty bitty pockets can't compete with those big chemical brands. Matter of fact, one of the manufacturers of the chemicals that they pour on all of our waterways and weeds is Bayer Aspirin, Bayer Company, them. So, of course, this is the thing. We can try to fight it, and we should. We should never not fight just because we don't feel like we will win. I know we won't win this. I know it, but I'm still going to try. And Linda, you know what you can do for the spraying for mosquitoes? It doesn't help a lot, but you can just get a empty beehive, put it out in your yard, or get some of those natural. Have Charlie build some little insect boxes, put them all over, get a sign from that saying that you raise bees, no spraying. Call the county, they'll put you on a no spray zone, and they'll stop right in front of your property. That's it. But they'll stop right there. It's something.
Yeah, they even brought signs out for us.
To warn the sprayers,
yeah.
Beginning of our property and the end. So it won't fix it because bees forage up to 5 miles away, but that could stop right at your house, we're both really passionate about this. Timmy couldn't eat that night. He couldn't sleep that night. He was so spitting upset about our water. It's our water.
Yeah.
It's like, what good of our homestead without clean water?
It's frustrating. And
so back to what I'm saying about fighting. Fight. Don't give up. I don't care if you're going to win. At least you know that you did your best. And that's what we should be doing on every issue that we're passionate about. Whether, as long as it's morally correct, I should say. Because the other side, they're fighting tooth and nail. And so we just keep giving up. They're going to keep winning. Maybe the next person, maybe I won't win this, but maybe the next person will. So we did finally get to establish that they are not spraying our property ever again. And they're going to send their supervisor out to make sure we're maintaining our pools, so there's not a need to come on our land. We're still moving forward with getting our water tested. This is another thing. We can't find anybody to test our water properly. All they test for is E. coli. I said, there ain't poop in our water. There's toxic chemicals in our water. Clearly, there's got to be somebody. I've called everywhere in the state of Tennessee. So we do have measures, though, because we're going to leave you with this because we got to get going. But we do have measures that we can take to help fix this issue. There's one, and oh gosh, before I get to that, let me start by saying real quick. If you think this is isolated, think again. I honestly, personally think this is completely intentional, especially with them people going to different parts of our land and around water that's nowhere near our pools. Because, and here's my tinfoil hat coming out. You can take it or leave it. I really don't care, but I believe it. So just recently, and I don't know if y'all been following how many chemical spills there have been on the trains in the last 2 years or 3 years since the new administration pushed themselves in. They are incredible, y'all, and they're always by like waterways and aquifers. Think about that for a moment. Have you ever heard of so many derailments? And then, for instance, here it says the U.S. is averaging one chemical accident every 2 days. In light of the Ohio train derailment, shows accidental releases are happening consistently. So you will actually have to get in an incognito window or use a search engine other than Google to find out information about this because they censor everything and it's very, or they'll, when I Googled it, it was showing me results in other countries, but not the United States, where those chemical spills are happening continuously right now in the United States, always by waterways. This other one, this was just last week. 30 tons, that's 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate disappeared from a rail shipment from Wyoming to California this week. 60,000 pounds, 30 tons. Think about that. How big is your truck? How many tons?
1,500 pounds. I mean, well, my truck weighs, what, 4,000 pounds.
So you think about how big that is. And these are toxic chemicals. And the same thing, only 1 ton of ammonium nitrate was used in the Oklahoma bombing. So they had enough ammonium nitrate to go to do 30 of those Oklahoma bombings this week. Have you seen that much on the news anywhere? And that's the crazy thing. It's like, I with all this other stuff going on, they're poisoning us, our food supply, our water supply. Do we fear? No. Do we ignore it? Heck to the no. No. We educate ourselves and we do whatever we can to share the information that we're gathering with others for when it happens. Because you can ignore it. This was my first thought when we moved here. I see all of these homes throwing trash in the water. Makes me so mad. I want to stop and give them a nice little talk. I don't, because I value my life. They have their RVs, and you can see their little tube of their sewage going right into the creeks. And we're discussing this as we're driving by, going, oh my God. But we're like, well, at least we're not downstream from it. That's what we keep saying. We're at the beginning of that vein. We're blessed by that. It comes right out the mountain to us. But what about all the other people downstream? So this is what I was saying back when our fight with the county over our chickens. The people that had chickens, they didn't want to stand up because they're like, well, it's not my fight. You're right. It's not today. But if you don't stand with those that it is their fight, they will come knocking on your door.
Eventually, yeah.
And we learned that the hard way, and that's why we're here. So if you feel that, oh, well, that's poor Tim and Amber, their poor water, it's kind of, turn on the faucet, honey. Your water is already poisoned. And they're coming for us, especially with those that have wells or individual water supplies that they can't put their fluoride and everything else in. They don't like that. Yeah. They don't like your independence. Yeah. Matter of fact, they were talked about passing a law to make well testing mandatory for every home. What happens when they say, oh, it's contaminated, unsafe for you to drink? You have to get water. What happens then? So I'm going to share with you really quickly. If you want, direct email or direct message us, and I'll share the long protocol that what we found to help clean our soil in our area where they sprayed. There's like 3 or 4 products to buy. They're all natural. It's like orange oil, activated charcoal. This other is microbe growth enhancer to help the microbes. And we use a Berkey filter for everything, but as a secondary measure, I don't know if you guys have seen these. So we remove the soil, we remove the foliage. We've got the stuff to put on it with the activated charcoal, because the activated charcoal is a binder. And if you're not familiar, activated charcoal is something that hospitals use when you have food poisoning. It binds it up, whatever those toxins and chemicals are, for release. Activated charcoal is in all your water filters. It is, I use it for the stomach bug. It's just really good. So here you can order these online. These are activated charcoal sticks, and you do have to do some pre-treatment. You got to rinse it and boil it. But after that, you put it in your water bottle or in your pitcher. Every 2 weeks, you boil it and get everything that it's absorbed out so it can work again. 1 stick is good for about 2 months. These are fairly affordable. You get 5 or 6, depending on who you order from them, in a pack. That's just secondary. That should not be your primary measure of filtration. That's your secondary measure of filtration. And the other thing that I'm very fortunate to have, we're fortunate to have as a contact, is Trad and Olga Cotter from Mushroom Mountain in Easley, Tennessee. Linda, I know I talked to you about that before, and because that's where Jesse used to live and the kids. But if you want to look them up, mushroommountain.com, I think, is their thing. They sell mushroom spawn. They teach amazing courses. They work with the state. He is the leading expert if there's any mushroom poisoning anywhere on the southeast coast and the Gulf area. But when we were taking his course, they were involved recently in the big oil spill in the Gulf. And they were taking their spent mushroom spawn after the mushrooms did their thing. You know, they've got this core of the mycelium and it's white. If you've ever looked at mushroom spawn or mushrooms under leaves and foliage, and they took all of that and they were able to clean the oil spills in the Gulf. And they've done so much other research. Well, I reached out to his wife, Olga, and she's like, oh my gosh, she said, absolutely. We'll put together a protocol for y'all and send it to you this coming week of what you can do. I haven't received that information yet because she said it was a week out. So I'm very, very I'm very, very fortunate to have that contact. And I will share that information with you as well. That's what we need to do and not live in fear. Mm-hmm. Find a solution, because there is a solution. Trust you me. If there's good, there's an equal bad. If there's bad, there's an equal good. I would say equal, but because good's always going to win. But there's always a countermeasure. So don't feel hopeless or like panicked. Going on, you know, like you're just going to put your head in the sand. Be diligent and find a solution because there's one out there, and then share it with others. Okay.
All right. Well, we thank you all for watching. And
are you okay? I was a little wordy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm good. I'm out of breath.
I'm not. I feel like I could go on, but I'm not. That's what happens when you're passionate about something, y'all. And no one's going to believe that you're more passionate about this than I was when it happened because you're so laid back and easygoing.
Well, it made me mad to know we've been violated like that. And
what did you compare that to? Remember? You compared it.
I mean, we've been robbed before, and
in our sleep,
it's
in our bedroom.
You just it's hard to get that back. You know. And
they robbed our peace.
Yeah.
Not just our. I didn't care about the money and stuff when we were robbed. They robbed our peace.
Yeah.
Our security.
We just hope it doesn't happen to anyone else.
And so when they did this to our water, my husband Timmy's like, I feel like when we were robbed, they came on our land and took something very precious to us. So yeah, eyes open, people. Armor on. Anyhow, we got to get going. Y'all have a blessed Sunday.
Thanks for watching.
Bye. Oh yes, Linda, population control, and then some. I'm going to add to this. Sickness business, not health business, but sickness business. So they can keep us sick, they can keep us compliant, and they can keep making those billions of dollars off of us. Okay, I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye. Linda and